My fear turned into courage. And I told myself, I'm a fighter. I'm gonna make it.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Brian Crime TV. I am Eczema. Today we're going to tell the story of a 9-year-old girl who outsmarted her kidnapper and ultimately helped put him in prison. Unlike many cases we've told you before, this one ends with a very heartwarming conclusion. The story happened on June 8, 2003, in San Jose, California. 9-year-old Janet Tamayo was riding the school bus home after class. When she reached home, she found the outer screen door wide open. She didn't think much of it, assuming her mother came home early. But inside the house, she found no one was home. Then, she went upstairs to the bedroom, where a window was shattered, glass shards scattered everywhere. At this moment, she realized something was wrong. She tried calling her mother. But when she picked up the receiver, there was no dial tone. On closer look, the phone line was cut. While she was still trying to understand what happened, someone knocked on the door outside. Janet went to the door and saw a stranger standing there. Though confused, she opened it. The man talked to Janet while sneaking looks inside. Janet sensed his ill intent and tried to close the door again, but he blocked it with his hand, then forced his way inside. Once in, he dragged Janet into a bedroom and assaulted her. Afterwards, he handcuffed Janet's hands, tied her feet with rope, then took her to the garage, planning to drive away. As he opened the garage door, a car pulled up outside. It was Janet's mother and brother returning, but clearly, they had no idea what was happening inside. Unaware, Brother Paul walked into the garage, and Janet, still handcuffed in the back seat, saw him and shouted, "Paul, run!" But at that moment, the kidnapper got out and approached Paul. Paul saw a stranger in the house and his sister trapped in the car. He immediately understood what was going on. Only 15 at the time, Paul grabbed a screwdriver without hesitation and stabbed at the man. However, the man was much stronger, quickly taking the screwdriver from Paul and knocked him down. Then, the man kept punching, repeatedly hitting Paul's face, rendering him unable to fight back. Next, the man dragged Paul inside and ran into Janet's mother, Rosalia. Rosalia saw the stranger dragging her son and separated them instantly. But after releasing Paul, the man attacked her. After Rosalia escaped, Paul ran to the kitchen, grabbed a frying pan, and continued fighting. Some might wonder, there should be knives in the kitchen, so why didn't Paul pick one up and chose a frying pan instead? I wondered the same at first, but then I thought, if you're much weaker than your opponent, using a knife might hurt you instead. Looking at the outcome, Paul should be glad he didn't use a knife, because neither he nor Rosalia were a match for the man, and they were soon overpowered. Janet in the car heard her mother scream, then silence. The man returned to the garage. Janet saw him covered in blood and nervously asked if he'd killed her brother and mother. The man only sneered, not answering, then drove off, taking Janet with him. She thought her mother and brother were dead and broke down crying. Luckily, the car hadn't gone far when she saw her mother running after them. Her face was bruised, but she ran after the car with all her strength. Soon, Brother Paul limped out, waving his arms, shouting, telling people to call the police. Seeing her family alive, Janet calmed down a bit, then thought about how to save herself. Seeing other cars passing by, Janet began screaming, banging on the window, hoping to get their attention. But it didn't work. It angered the man. He stabbed her several times with the screwdriver taken from Paul, warning her to be quiet. Injured, Janet stopped screaming and lay in the back seat, staring hopelessly at the car ceiling, thinking she was going to die.
And just thinking to myself, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna die.
Meanwhile, Police arrived at Janet's house. Rosalia was badly injured, but refused to go to the hospital, insisting police rescue her daughter. The police struggled hard to convince Rosalia to get in the ambulance, then rushed her and Paul to the hospital. Next, the police started investigation, led by Officer Sutherland, who saw the crime scene covered with blood. He thought about using police dogs to track the suspect by scent, but unfortunately, the blood was only from Rosalia and Paul. The kidnapper and Janet were uninjured, so no blood evidence was left, making the method ineffective. During further inspection, he noticed cameras across the street and contacted the owners, asking for surveillance footage. He got the videos, and through them, the police established the kidnapper's timeline. The kidnapper arrived 30 minutes before Janet got home and broke in. He smashed her bedroom window and entered the house, likely to steal. But after stealing, he didn't leave, instead waited in his car. Seeing Janet return, he followed her and knocked on the door. He then entered the house and assaulted Janet for 30 minutes. When he planned to leave with Janet, Paul and Rosalia returned home. At the end of the footage, their screams and cries for help are clearly heard. Called the Amber Alert. It is a rapid response for child abduction cases, named after a famous abduction and murder in Texas in 1996. If you want, comment below. Maybe we can cover that case separately. We could do a special episode on it. That famous case. In the US, if a child is abducted, the government issues an Amber Alert, seeking helpful tips from the public. However, there are conditions to trigger the alert, like a detailed kidnapper description or ID, and the vehicle's model and license plate. But in this case, the video footage was too blurry, yielding no useful clues, so the Amber Alert wasn't triggered. This frustrated Officer Randall greatly, but he made the right call, alerting the media immediately, hoping to rally public help in searching for Janet. The news repeatedly aired Janet's story, and her photos were posted everywhere. Police sent helicopters, broadcasting Janet's name non-stop, making sure locals knew about the case and the abducted girl. Now, let's refocus on Janet. Though scared in the back seat, she tracked their route carefully, hoping to find her way home as she escaped. However, after a short drive, they arrived. The man drove into the garage of a White House, opened the back door, and carried Janet inside. He locked Janet in a small room upstairs, with only a bed, a TV, and a bathroom. For days after, Janet lived with him in that small room. After each assault, he handcuffed her to the bathroom faucet, forcing her to clean herself, which was extremely perverse. The day after the crime, the man was watching TV in the room, when Janet suddenly saw her cousin on the screen, who spoke directly to her. Because Janet's mother and brother were still hospitalized, the police arranged for her relative to speak on TV. Her cousin said, "Janet, we're doing everything to find you. If you can hear us, stay strong. Don't give up. We will rescue you." The family's words reignited Janet's will to fight. Janet was well. They gave her strength to fight her way out. Original phrase copied. She started planning her escape. Knowing to escape, she first had to gain the kidnapper's trust. So, she cautiously communicated with the kidnapper, carefully asking, "Where are you from?" Obviously, the kidnapper never expected that a 9-year-old girl would break the ice first. He froze, then smiled. It was the first time Janet saw him smile. Knowing her plan worked, so she pressed on. She asked if he could get her a glass of water, and he agreed. But before going downstairs, he handcuffed Janet again. After he left, Janet fiddled with the handcuffs, finding they were mechanical handcuffs that didn't need a key. Just pressing a button unlocked them. She unlocked herself, gaining brief freedom. At that time, Janet's mind raced, knowing the kidnapper would soon return, so she had to use her time wisely. She thought about detective shows she often watched. Police treat sexual assault cases as evidence in sexual assault cases. So she went to the bathroom, grabbed her worn underwear, then took the kidnapper's watch from the bedside and some toys he had given her, secretly hiding everything on her. Just then, she heard the kidnapper coming upstairs, so Janet returned to bed, handcuffing herself again. When he entered, Janet acted like nothing had happened, though she felt very uneasy inside because all that evidence was on her. Fortunately, the kidnapper didn't assault her that day. 3 days passed. Despite Officer Randall's great efforts, there were still no leads. The golden rescue window for kidnappings is 48 hours, and after that, chances of recovery drop sharply. Therefore, the police prepared for the worst for Rosalia.
My daughter, she's a little kid. She has only 10 years. I asked the police what happened with my daughter. When my daughter came by, say, maybe never. I don't feel comfortable because I don't protect her.
Meanwhile, Janet fought to survive. She endured daily beatings and assaults, acting extremely submissive to lower his guard, and the tactic worked. One night, the kidnapper asked if she wanted pizza. Janet said yes immediately, so he gave her his phone, letting her call herself. God. So, Janet called the pizza place, needing to provide phone number and address for delivery, so the kidnapper gave her his phone number and address. Smart Janet memorized everything. She thought if she was rescued someday, she would make sure this guy went to jail. Remember, she was only 9, needing incredible calm and strength to do this. If it were me, I definitely couldn't have done it. Soon the doorbell rang, probably the pizza delivery, and the kidnapper went down to answer. But when he came back, his face wore a strange look. Throwing the pizza on the bed, Janet saw a flyer on the pizza box, which was a missing person flyer for her. The delivery man gave out missing posters while delivering, causing the kidnapper great unease. He told Janet, "Today I need to get rid of you." He then left the room. Janet thought, "I'll leave clues behind." She threw away the pizza, putting all evidence she could find into the box, and hid it under the bed. Soon, the man returned, carrying a pillow, and tried to suffocate Janet with it. He intended to kill her. Janet struggled, turning her head to the side, but the man was too strong. Near suffocation, she turned her head away and gasped for air. At that moment, the man suddenly let go.
As soon as 5 seconds later, after I got some air, he pulled the pillow off and he asked me, "Do you want to take a shower?"
Janet quickly showered, and while dressing, she hid the evidence in her pockets. The man then took Janet to the car. It was night, and the roads were empty. Janet felt she might not survive this night, though very scared, but she hadn't given up hope. Along the way, she kept memorizing every turn and intersection. Though this trip was much longer, they drove about 30 minutes, then parked at a lot. After parking, the man pulled Janet out by her hair, maybe trusting her compliance. Won the kidnapper's trust. He told Janet, "You can go, but if you tell anyone about me, I'll come back and kill you. Then kill your family too." He left those threats, then drove off, leaving Janet alone. She couldn't believe she survived. Janet saw a nearby store and ran there. The owner, a middle-aged man, recognized Janet at once, the kidnapped girl on TV.
She said, "Let me use the phone." I said, "Okay, here's the phone." When she started dialing the phone, she was panicking, scared. She didn't know how to dial the...
Janet called Officer Randall, who quickly came to the store. Seeing Janet alive, he was overjoyed. But he knew, to catch the suspect, they had to act fast and needed Janet's help. Then, as he thought how to ask, Janet volunteered, "Officer, I have some evidence on me." Then, she pulled out her underwear, toys, and the kidnapper's watch. Randall was amazed at her calmness and wit. He asked what else she knew about the kidnapper. Janet asked for paper and pencil, drew the house layout, wrote part of the address and the full phone number. Seeing her intelligence, Randall asked, "Do you think you can find his house?" Janet confidently replied, "I think so." So, the police took Janet by car back to San Jose. Thanks to her strong memory, she led police to the kidnapper's home. That moment, she became her own hero.
I felt brave. I think that's why I stood up in the back of the car and started yelling and saying, "That's it."
Randall quickly deployed SWAT. Janet drew a floor plan, and the raid went smoothly. The suspect was David Montiel Cruz. Police stormed the house. He hid in the attic, planning to resist. In the end, the police released dogs and subdued him inside. Randall found the pizza box under the bed, filled with evidence. David was charged with burglary, sexual assault, rape, forcible molestation, battery, and 7 other felonies. Janet was taken to the hospital, where she reunited with her family. But in the following years, Janet suffered severe PTSD, couldn't leave her home, and feared strangers. After 6 years of therapy, she learned to face her fears and gradually returned to normal life. 12 years later, arranged by a TV producer, Janet reunited with Agent Randall. Embracing again after 12 years, Randall still admired Janet's courage and intelligence, and Janet was grateful for all he had done. In the end, the girl fully overcame her childhood fears, deciding to follow Randall's path and become a detective. Just as Randall helped her, she would help those in need. Maybe that's what people call, "You were my hero as a child, and I became yours growing up."